You wouldn't survive a day in the Roman Empire. Not because you would be thrown to the lions, though granted. That was always a possibility if you made enough enemies in just the right forum. No, your downfall would be quieter, more mundane, a combination of dehydration, dysentery, and despair served with a side of fermented fish sauce and the ever-present stench of the city. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's imagine for a moment that you wake up not in your apartment or house, but in a domus, a Roman household. You don't know the language. You've had no vaccinations. Your clothes are made of itchy wool. There is no toothpaste, no internet, and the world smells distinctly of sweat, smoke, and sewage. Welcome to Rome, 3rd century CE, let's say. The empire is bloated, brilliant, and teetering. The Pax Romana is fading. The city is still magnificent in its own weathered way. Marble temples, shouting senators, gods carved into stone facades. But under the gleaming domes and crumbling aqueducts lies something more real and far less romantic. Your day begins. There is no alarm clock. You are awoken by the rising sun and the sounds of the street. Wheels grinding over cobblestones. Street vendors are already shouting. Somewhere a rooster insists on doing its job far too enthusiastically. You sit up on a straw mattress, probably crawling with tiny guests. Your room is dark, narrow, and windowless. The air is thick with the smell of oil lamps, last night's stew, and the body odors of a household that doesn't yet believe in bathing daily. Your mouth tastes off. And the nearest thing to a toothbrush is a chew stick dipped in crushed charcoal and oyster shells. Mint, you will soon discover, is reserved for higher social classes and more ceremonial occasions. If you're poor, which you almost certainly are, in a city of over 1 million souls, you live in a cramped, multi-story insula. Think ancient apartment block, made of wood, always slightly leaning, and perpetually at risk of collapsing or catching fire. The communal toilet is downstairs, if it hasn't already overflowed. Oh, and your neighbor upstairs probably emptied their chamber pot last night out the window. You might want to step carefully. You're hungry. But breakfast in ancient Rome is more suggestion than meal. The elite may nibble on olives or honeyed bread. The rest of you, crust of yesterday's barley loaf, if you're lucky, washed down with water, cut with vinegar pasca, they call it. A drink beloved by soldiers and scorned by everyone else, unless they're out of options, which they often are. You might pass a stall offering, pulls a porridge of boiled grains, sometimes flavored with herbs or bits of onion. But there's no coffee, no eggs and toast, no quiet moment of contemplation with a warm mug in your hand. Just grain mush, vinegar water, and a dull ache behind your eyes. Your stomach grumbles, unimpressed. Clothes for the average Roman are an exercise in compromise. You might wear a tunic, unbelted and sweat-stained, made from scratchy wool or flax that has seen better decades. Underwear. If you're feeling fancy, perhaps a sublegoculum, essentially a loincloth. And there is no deodorant. Perfumed oils might help mask your scent, but if you're a laborer or vendor, you're just sweaty permanently. You step out into the city, blinking against the glare. The streets are narrow, the crowds endless, bodies pressed together. Shouts and smells blend into a dense hum. It's morning in Rome, the day has just begun, and already you're tired. You're outside now. In theory, fresh air should help. Practice well, you're in the heart of Rome. The smell of the Tiber, muddy, sluggish, and perpetually offended, mingles with the aroma of spoiled meat, public latrines, and the acrid smoke of charcoal fires. Everywhere, there are people, shouting, selling, arguing, praying. You squeeze past a man hawking amphorae of cheap wine and a boy carrying a basket of bread that smells slightly of mildew. A stray dog eyes you suspiciously from beneath a cart. Someone shoves past you and you instinctively check your pocket. Of course you have no pocket and now no coin. Welcome to the daily commute. If you're poor, and again you don't have a career. You have labors. Day-to-day, hand-to-mouth. You might be a porter hauling goods through the forum under a punishing sun, or a bricklayer, choking on dust in a half-finished bathhouse. Maybe you sweep the floors of a rich man's villa, invisible unless something goes wrong. The day's work begins early and ends when your body says enough, or when someone else does. There's no HR department, no lunch break, no sick days. Get injured, you're replaced. Fall ill, you're someone else's burden, unless of course you're enslaved. Then you're not even considered someone. And if you're a woman, double the work. Fetching water, tending the fire, grinding grain with a hand quern that takes hours. Washing clothes and lie in urine. Yes, urine because ammonia cleans. Sort of. This isn't the golden marble empire of the history books. This is the grind. The endless, hungry machine of empire, chewing through human effort like bread crusts. As you move through the city on foot, always on foot, you begin to notice the rhythm. Carts rumble through alleys, their wheels worn smooth by decades of use. Roman roads are famous now, romanticized as triumphs of engineering. But on the ground in your sandaled feet, they're uneven, filthy, and constantly slick with something. You keep to the stepping stones that rise above the filth, but even those are no guarantee. Someone's always tossing something from a window. Slop, ashes, other less describable things. And if it rains, the streets flood with runoff and refuse. The stone drains help when they aren't clogged, which they usually are, and you'd better hope you don't trip, because sanitation isn't a science yet. A scraped knee could become a serious infection. There are no antiseptics, no antibiotics, no comforting tube of Neosporin, just prayer and pus. Let's say you're minding your own business, selling wares, hauling bricks, herding goats, whatever fills your day. Suddenly a commotion, a soldier walks by, he's bored, he's underpaid, he's looking for trouble, you look too long. You don't speak fast enough, you speak too fast. Whatever it is, you're pulled aside, maybe questioned, maybe slapped, maybe worse. Roman law is efficient, yes, but justice. That depends on your status. If you're a citizen, a real citizen, you might get a hearing. If you're not, you're subject to the mood of the moment. Corporal punishment is common. Public humiliation too in the prisons, not correctional institutions. You're holding pens, dark and fetid, for those awaiting trial or execution. You don't want to go there. Unless you're wealthy or well-connected, no one will care if you do. Even outside of official punishment, daily violence simmers beneath the surface. Disputes turn into brawls. Political debates become riots. And if you're enslaved, your life is legally not yours. It can be sold, beaten, worked to death, or sport sometimes. By now, your stomach aches again. You eye a vendor selling skewers of dormice eyes, mice, fattened and stuffed with nuts. Or bread smeared with fermented fish sauce, garum, that smells suspiciously like a dock worker's boot. But it's food, kinda. You might splurge on a hot snack from a thermopolium, Rome's ancient fast food. Stew, boiled grains, a bite of sausage if you're lucky, spicy, oily, and questionably sourced. Health codes don't exist. Neither does refrigeration. The heat builds. Rome bakes beneath the midday sun, and your wool tunic clings to your back. There's no relief. No fans, no ice water, no shady cafe with lemon spritz. Just more walking, more sweating, more city. You begin to realize the truth of Roman life. The part history classes leave out. It's not the wars or the gladiators or the emperors that would kill you. It's the exhaustion. It's the slow, aching erosion of your body under the weight of the ordinary. Evening arrives, you'd think things might quiet down. But Rome doesn't really sleep. It simmers. The sun dips, and the city exhales a different kind of noise. Less frantic, more feral. The heat lingers, trapped between stones. Shadows grow long over the rooftops. Oil lamps flicker to life behind thin shutters, casting golden glows on pitted walls. The smell of roasting meat rises in patches, burned, oversalted, often the wrong kind of animal. Still, it's something. If you made it through your labor with enough coin to spare and no injuries, altercations, or arrests, you might be able to relax, though that's a generous word, relax. More accurately, you might momentarily stop actively suffering. Let's say you follow the crowd. The ludi, the games, are still going. Not the grand spectacles of the Colosseum, those happen less frequently and often require imperial patronage. But smaller performances, street acts, public executions, if you're into that sort of thing, and many are, you stand shoulder to shoulder in a packed forum as someone reenacts a myth with puppets made from old rags. A crowd nearby gears at a drunk staggering through a joke about the gods. Another group cheers at a bear baiting pit where an exhausted animal is goaded into violence for laughs. It's vulgar. It's cruel. It's the only show in town. And if you're wealthy, maybe you attend a dinner party. reclining on cushions, sipping watered wine, being served by hands that will never eat what they carry. You'll listen to a poet drone about the fall of Troy. You'll try not to gag at the fish guts in the sauce. You'll pretend this is refinement. Entertainment here is a distraction, not joy. A reminder that survival isn't just physical, it's emotional. By dusk, your mind is just as battered as your feet. Before sleep, maybe you want to clean up. Wash off the sweat, dust, and social residue of the day. If you're lucky, you might stop by a public bath. Thermi there surprisingly advanced. Hot, warm, and cold pools. Scrapers, oils, steam, but they're communal. Loud, crowded. And you don't really bathe in the modern sense. You soak in water that hundreds of others have sat in. After rubbing their bodies with oil and scraping it off with a bronze blade, if you're poor or female, you're restricted to certain hours or barred altogether. You might settle for a rinse from a jug and a rough cloth back at home, or nothing. Soap doesn't exist, neither do towels. And no one brushes their teeth, not really. You stink. But so does everyone else. And after a while, you stop noticing. Now it's dark. Properly dark. The kind of black that swallows sound. Rome has no streetlights. Few torches flicker on doorposts, but most alleys are pitch and shadow. The law doesn't really patrol after dark. There's no point. Crime flourishes while the city sleeps. Knives flash. Drunks stumble. People disappear. And no one writes it down. You stay inside if you can. You wedge the door shut. Hope your building doesn't catch fire again. Fires are frequent, especially in the dense tenement blocks. The walls are wooden. The floors are wooden. Cooking is open flame. It doesn't take much. You lie down on your straw mat, surrounded by the creaks of a dozen strangers in the same room. Someone snores. Someone coughs. Something scurries. Your body aches. Your stomach still growls. You've lived one day. Just one. And you are changed. People speak of Rome as glory, as triumph, as empire. And it was, but not for most. For most, Rome was struggle, was noise, was rot and smoke and endless grinding work. The monuments remain. The aqueducts, the roads, the statues carved with unblinking eyes. But the hands that built them, the backs that bent, they vanished quietly. No marble preserved their names. And you transported here just for a day wouldn't survive it. Not because you're weak, but because you were never meant to. And for all its wonders, Rome would chew you up before noon. So the next time you romanticize the empire, remember the vinegar water, the chamber pots, the scraped knees, and the ever-present whispered hunger. You don't belong there, and that perhaps is the greatest privilege of all.